What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Blazers Uprise Live here on a Monday night. Eric, what's going on, man? We don't got much to talk about today. I need to fix your webcam because it's off for some reason. We're going to talk... No, I need to move it up. There's like a white bar at the top. I don't know why that happened. Anyway, we got news to talk about today. It's August 22nd, the dog days of August right now, man. But we do got some Blazer news. It's what we're gonna talk about what we talked about on the last stream, which was broadcasting and road games. That's what we have to talk about in late August. Okay, we'll touch upon the latest news and how the Blazers changed course, and then you have something from Chris Haynes that you wanted to talk about. I don't even know what it is. We're going to talk about that. We'll take a few questions. This should be a shorter stream, and yeah, we just got to make it through August, man. Anyway, how was your day?
Oh, not too bad. How about yours?
I got out Blazers Pulse, finally. A lot of work into those graphics and whatnot. Finally got that out, so that was good. If you haven't watched it, definitely go check it out. And yeah, man, just working on some things. I'm trying to pre-record some videos for September. Because September, I spilled it in that video. I'm going to try and do daily uploads in September, but I'm going to try and have them all done, or at least hopefully most of them done before September starts. That's the goal right now. So that's the grind. Anyway, you want to just jump straight into it, man?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm not even going to waste any time. This isn't even going to take
everyone,
long.
by the way.
Yeah. I want to... Whenever we have light news days... I always want to drag out the intro as much as possible because we have to fill some time. We don't got much to talk about, but screw it. Let's jump straight into it. The Blazers changed course in regards to their decision to not send broadcasters on the road. Okay? That's what we talked about last Thursday because Rip City Radio 620 broke news that the Blazers were electing not to send broadcasters, including their TV commentators, sideline reporter, radio guy. That's, of course, Lamar Hurd, Kevin Clabro, Brooke Olzendam, and Travis Demers. There was leaked news on Rip City Radio 620 that they were not going to send their broadcast teams on the road, and that was met with a ton of fan backlash. Me and you ranted about that decision a bit on Thursday and how it would have been a terrible decision, how it made no sense. If you guys missed that stream, feel free to watch it back whenever. But now everything we talked about is a moot point because it sounds like they listened to the fans, Eric, and now they are sending their broadcasters on the road.
That means it's not a moot point because people like us, and it was all over social media, like people hated this, right? And they took a ton of heat for it, for being cheap and not caring about the fans and all that stuff. And so, I mean, I don't know how big of a part we had in that, a very small part, but like everyone could combine together. This is a joint effort by, I don't care what side of fans, you know how sometimes there's different fractions of Blazers Twitter. They're pretty much all against this. So I think done.
Your audio went out.
No, I was just waiting until you were done with your bag of chips.
Bro, I muted my mic.
No, it was so loud. I could hear you. I don't know. I don't know if they heard you.
Right now. They can't hear me when I mute my mic, but you can. I forgot about that. I thought I muted it, man. It's not even chips. I got a bag of Cheez-Its I haven't eaten all day, and these Cheez-Its were looking good. So I muted my mic, and yeah, I didn't realize you could hear it. I forgot that was a thing. So sorry, my apologies. I tried my best. Your boy's hungry and wants some Cheez-Its. Anyway, as you were saying.
I was just saying that, like, yeah, so this proved that, I mean, at least they're willing to listen to the fans, you know, and still didn't go through it despite the backlash. But they were definitely planning on not doing it, and the backlash contributed to their decision to reverse course. And so I will not say that was a moot point because I feel like it was thanks to everyone who vented and griped about it that it got this fixed, and we will have our broadcasters actually be in the arenas, which will be a good thing.
Yeah, so either our stream on Thursday was completely pointless, or it was the most meaningful stream you've ever done. Either or is basically how I'm looking at it. So, yeah, I mean, it's. I tweeted this out. I thought it's ridiculous that that was even an option in the first place that the organization was considering, but at least they listened to the fans.
Right.
Right? So, I mean, it's ridiculous that we had to sit there and scream on Twitter and do a whole stream around it for the organization to get it, but shout out to all the fans that stepped up and made their voices heard, and the organization listened to the fans for once. Sadly, they can't listen to the fans in regards to TV availability, because that's all in Root Sports' hands.
Yeah, I do want to quote one thing Mr. Hankins said on the show.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "We would never want to do anything that was viewed as this was, as something that was negative to the fan experience. That's not something we do." I mean, how could you not know that was going to, and that was my whole problem with it, and part of my rant last Thursday was that this organization is constantly doing that. And I know I can't blame Hankins in particular for most of it because he's fairly new, but this organization has a long history. I pointed out as many things off the top of my head last Thursday as I could think of. And yeah, they're constantly doing this. And if they cared about it, the fan experience, they would have their games more available to more people. And it's just not. And they seemingly, this has been going on for, I don't know, 12, 15 years since like they switched to Comcast and hasn't been available to all the fans in the area. So, yeah, it's like, okay, so you're backtracking on this and saying you care about the fan experience, but what about getting it on more streaming platforms? What about trying to force Root to allow Xfinity customers to stream the games not at home and stuff like that? Like, they need to be more progressive with things to give the fans a better experience, not just be reactionary to something they got hate on.
Yeah, and I mean, they can call us up, right? If they want to know what fans would think. I feel like we have a pretty good pulse, or a thumb on the pulse of the fan base, so to say. I mean, I literally just dropped a whole pulse video today, right? I could have told them if they asked me, do you think this goes over well with fans? I would have said, hell no. It's not a good, it doesn't make for a better broadcast, and it comes off as cheap. So you're sacrificing the product for the fans, and you look cheap doing it. Of course fans are going to hate that. I could have told them the entire fan base won't be on board with this. And instead,
some people were indifferent to it, but yeah, for the most part,
it's just a bad look. Like, you're doing something that no other organization seems to be looking at that hurts broadcast quality and seems cheap. Like, if it was the entire league doing it, then okay, at least you can point to other teams and say, see, this is a league-wide thing. Fans still wouldn't like it, but at least you'd have that excuse. But when you're alone and it's cheap and it hurts the fan experience for half the season, yeah, of course it's not going to go over well. The fact that they couldn't figure that out on their own is actually kind of sad. But, just have a fan council or something. Like, yeah. before this becomes news, just have some fans that can provide you feedback behind the scenes or something. Like, figure something out, because it seems like they've been completely out of touch for a while now, and there's just really no excuse for it.
Yeah, and that's my main problem. It's not that they did the right thing and didn't, or were considering it or whatever. It's just, I'm just sick of them not being able to make decisions that seemingly have what's best for the fans in mind before they make it and before they consider it, or as part of the consideration process. It just seems like they make a rash decision sometimes and then are like blown away by how much like negative things they get about it. It's like at some point you need to figure out how to get ahead of it. Like you said, whether that's a fan council or something like that, just have some sort of way to throw these ideas out there. And maybe that's what they did in this situation. Maybe they leaked it on purpose to see what the fans would react to it, but
yeah, but don't do it trial by fire.
Right, yeah.
That's literally what that is, which is just dumb. Like,
so yeah, it's like when a GM will leak a trade idea or something through some random burner account or something to try and see if fans would like it or not. But yeah, it's just when an organization is poorly run from the top, it trickles down, and whether you have good people underneath or not, they just can't seem to get out of their own way. Thankfully, this time they aren't going through with it, but it's just the whole decision to do it in the first place, and it still doesn't make sense. I keep hearing him explain what he was going to do with it and how it was they're trying to like transcend the broadcast and become analytical and all this stuff. And it goes back to what you said last Thursday, and that's why can't you just do that stuff and have a normal broadcast? Like, you don't have to be in Portland to have extra features to your broadcast, right? Just add the extra features in. Make it an awesome broadcast and do all this stuff with it without being cheap and without like harming the experience overall.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. There is a possibility that Jody just gave him a budget in regards to the broadcast, and it was like, we can either do one thing or the other, right? So, like, I think that's ridiculous, but it might not be anyone's fault but Jody's.
Okay, but still, this goes back to what I was saying, is that this organization just can't get out of its own way then. It's not considering the fans if that was the case.
Yeah. So that's the thing with all this is like Jody might want something done that Hankins doesn't, but he has to put on a company face, or it could be Hankins' call. Like, it's hard to tell. So with stuff that's frustrating, like business on the business side of the organization, like I'll get frustrated with it, but I'll get frustrated without even knowing who exactly to blame. So that's the thing, is a lot of people were like super angry towards Hankins, and without knowing 100% exactly the going-ons behind the scenes, it's hard for me to be too angry at him necessarily. I'm not saying you are. Yeah. I just know some fans were like ranting about him and everything. It could be Jody, it could be him, I don't know. So, you know, that's the thing. Stuff like that, I'll criticize the decisions and the organization as a whole. In terms of individual blame or responsibility, I don't really know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's just, my problem is it doesn't seem to matter who's in charge, whether it's Olshey and Cronin or GMs prior to that, whether it's Hankins or McGowan or whatever. Like, they've all done stuff like this that have been made no sense at all, right? And for the broadcasting thing, it dates back to, it dates back as far as, I think it was like late 90s or so, when they basically booted Shanley from the radio broadcast and made him do TV and then it just was a disaster, and they moved him back, and it was like never really the same. And Shanley's such a great person. He, forgave them and did all that stuff. But like, that guy should have earned a lifetime pass to be on the radio as long as he wanted to. And then there was the weird stuff regarding like the way Wheels' tenure ended here. And then there was the Mike and Mike stuff, and there's the Comcast stuff and the NBC Sports Northwest and all that, like, and now the Root Sports deal last year was a disaster for them. And it just seems like it doesn't matter who's in charge, and that's why it's got to be rooted within the organization that they just cannot make the right decision no matter who's there. And they really need to figure that out and start. I think that's a great idea to have some sort of like committee or something that they can run ideas back before it gets to the public and before they just make a mess of themselves before it's too late to recover from some of these things. Now, luckily, this one was easily recoverable from, but I still don't like his answers. I still don't think they make sense. I think he's just trying to save face, obviously, but like, I still don't understand why he's trying to say like, oh, we were just like thinking about it from this perspective or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, let me give them credit for something though. that's different than it was like this time last year. At least we have people that are willing to speak pretty much directly to the public, right? Like Joe Cronin's gone on local radio. Neil Olshey would have never done that.
Yeah.
Dwayne Hankins just did the same thing after getting a ton of heat and backlash. So, you know, even if he's trying to save face and some of the stuff doesn't make sense, like at least they are willing to face the public, where Olshey just... People complained about Olshey not doing enough interviews and not being transparent enough with anything, and, you know, everything was behind closed doors, and they had a really tight front office, nothing ever leaked, we never had any clue about anything. Yeah. So, I will give one shred of credit for that.
Absolutely. Good point.
Yeah, but, of course, that's the thing. Anytime you do that, and that's why Neil Olshey probably didn't do that, anytime you do that, it will open you up to criticism as to what you say, and people will dissect your answers, and if you didn't word things right, then that can come back to bite you. That's why people like that don't usually, you know, aren't super open with the public, necessarily. So, credit for that. But it will come with some potential criticism.
Yeah.
I have to credit them for being willing to face that.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, if you wanted to touch on that, go ahead.
I was just saying, I 100% agree, and yeah, I do think that's important to recognize, so I'm glad you brought it up. I just don't like we're wrong, but we're trying to be innovative. We're trying to do that. Like, no, you weren't. Like, don't say that part of it. Just say, we messed up. We were thinking about doing it a new way, and it was wrong of us to even consider that. Thank you for showing us that was not the right decision, and we'll try to do better next time. Whatever, you know, don't try to spin it that you were trying to make some state-of-the-art experience for the fans and you were really trying to do something with it other than save money.
Yeah, I mean, if he was given a budget and it was or if it was like either or, then I don't know. I don't necessarily blame him if it was a situation where like he wanted to be innovative in other departments and maybe thought that they could do a remote broadcast as if they were in person and then improve the broadcast in other areas and didn't have the budget to do both because Jody is keeping her pockets a little bit tight. In that sort of scenario, like that explanation makes sense to me. So that's where I'm not too frustrated with that answer. I get it. I mean, it's a bad thing to consider. You know, say we realize now that definitely wasn't the right route no matter what, and we thank the fans for giving their feedback. You know, like that sort of answer would be nice to hear, but I don't know. I feel like there's probably a budget for that sort of thing, and it's if that's the case, it's hard to it's hard to make improvements in advance instead of just keep the status quo.
Yeah, but why is I mean, okay, yes, if we're just looking at it strictly from a blame Hankins type of view, yes, 100%. But to the bigger point, if there was a budget, then what Hankins just said today is not true. They don't care about the fans, which is probably pretty obvious at this point. But, like, it goes back to Jody and Burt Cold. Those guys need to get the frick out of here, man. If that's what happened, if they were saying, like, oh, no, we're going to cut the budget for the broadcast or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, then don't try to sell us that you care about what the fans think, because you obviously didn't until there was a huge backlash against it. So, like, my problem is we have bigger problems than, I mean, it's not Hankins' fault at all, and he's going to have to toe the corporate line, whatever. Like I said, I'm not blaming him at all, but like this all leads back to the same problem we've had for a while now, and that's Jody is still seemingly unwilling to sell the team, and until that happens, we're going to be stuck with stuff like this, I think.
Yeah, I mean, budget-wise, it could have been not that they were cutting the budget, right? It could have been that Hankins wanted to do some things they wanted to do some things better and needed a bigger budget than they had in the past to do those things. that's possible, and it was possible that Jody said, no, this is what we've always done, the broadcast's been fine, I'm not going to give you more money for this, right? And that's, obviously a Jody problem. At the same time, it's going to be hard to find an owner that doesn't run it like a business, right? So that's the thing, is every owner, I feel like, cares about fans to a certain extent, but once it reaches the point where it's not a good business decision, then it's, in terms of the bottom line, then it's something that they're billionaires for a reason, right? They've made financial decisions like that for their own benefit to get to the point where they are a billionaire and ultimately a team owner. So, I mean, yeah, it would be nice to have a Paul Allen, a Paul Allen type owner. That's probably Phil Knight. That's why people want Phil Knight to be the owner of this team, and that's why I want Phil Knight to be the owner of this team. I just feel like, this is just my guess, I have no idea. This is just my best guess as to this situation, is Hankins wanted to do some new things, and Jody wouldn't expand the budget for it, so he tried potentially considering saving money elsewhere, thinking that they could replicate the experience on road games with a remote broadcast, and then once he heard the backlash from the fans, he decided, you know what, just screw it, we'll just do what we've always done. That's my best guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's kind of given Hankins a pass here. I just think it might have just been as short-sighted as they were trying to save some money, and it didn't work out for them because they realized that some fans were threatening boycotting watching it all and stuff like that. And so it's tough to know what actually happened. But
yeah, which is why I said that's my best guess. I have no clue. It's all speculation, and that's bottom line is, I wish we had an owner where we could just you just throw money into every department, and Phil Knight seems like that type of guy. That's why fans want Phil Knight to be the owner. It's tough. It's tough because I feel like fans got used to Paul Allen, and even then they didn't handle some things right. But Paul Allen was willing to invest money. This was kind of like his toy. You know what I mean? He didn't really seem to care too much about making profit on it. He loved being an NBA team owner. He was a really good NBA team owner. He was willing to pay the luxury tax. He was willing to do whatever it took. Now, some fans will say he meddled too much, but that also shows that he really cared about, it was really into it, was really into being a team owner, was really into the league as a whole. And then that's been one of the criticisms of Jody is does she really care like that? Well, we know she doesn't, but how much does she care? So I would love to have another Paul Allen owning this team where, if they want to do some new things with the broadcast, they're able to get a bigger budget for it to implement, some new things, whatever Hankins is talking about when he says that he wanted to make some advancements and some improvements and do analytical stuff and all this type of stuff. It'd be nice to have an owner that would be willing to do that. I feel like Jody's the type of owner who wouldn't really be willing to do that if it meant spending more money in something that she doesn't see an immediate tangible return in regards to the organization.
Yeah, I'm just having a hard time picturing what that could be though, what he was trying to do that would have cost a ton of money, whether it's fancy graphics or having an analytics guy there, that can't cost that much money to have someone.
I mean, it can't, dude. I mean, hire me and Reese and
right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know, man. It's hard. It's hard to say.
I'm guessing there would be some people willing to volunteer their time for that kind of stuff,
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I mean, I'm glad to be done talking about this after today.
Well, the other part of this too, though, it's they just need to do something better with their PR, because we were hoping it would be different. And I guess it is kind of different since they actually listened this time. But, we went through all those press conferences with Olshey, and it seems like every time it's what are you doing? Why would this be the way you guys approach the situation, right? The Billups press conference, right? It was just a freaking disaster, and then he's got the stupid water bottle thing, and, it's oh, that's proprietary, Sean, just don't even put him out there. Like, don't even have him be a part of it if you know this is going to be the way you're going to handle it.
Yeah, see, that would be a bad PR move if they didn't have him out there, though, at the same time.
Yeah,
like,
but like
if Olshey hires his guy Billups and then doesn't show up for the press conference, like, that would be a really bad PR move.
But then, like, don't say you did, like, a thorough investigation. You're going to have to trust us. And then it comes out a few days later that you didn't really do that and all this kind of stuff. Like, it's just, it's so dumb. And I guess I've heard that's part of the reason why McGowan left is he wanted to be more involved with the PR side of it, including with what Olshey did. And Olshey didn't like that he was trying to be, like, above him or whatever. That's the way Olshey took it. But yeah, they should have sat there and let, like, Jason Quick asked a valid question, and then Olshey cut him off and said, "Oh, we've already talked about it. We're not talking about it again." Like, no, that's not the way to go about it. And it's just a disaster after disaster with this organization. And then there's an investigation into him, and then there was weird stuff around the investigation, and it's just, I'm sick of it, man. I'm sick of talking about this stuff. Like, I just wish we had an organization that, like, did things the right way and cared a little more.
I mean, for me, a lot of the issues in the past were due to Olshey, and he kind of ran things. And if that's true what you're saying about McGowan, then it seems like it was Olshey handling handling some of the PR stuff.
Well,
so after he gets fired, for me, it's a bit of a clean slate, especially since you have a new president as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of a clean slate with Cronin and Hankins. I don't know if I'm forgetting something, but this seems like the first misstep PR-wise since those guys have taken over. And it gets tiring because we're used to this under the past regime. But in terms of just, like, talking about the organization as it is, I give Cronin and Hankins a clean slate. And while Cronin's moves, some of the moves, like the trade deadline stuff, it was extremely frustrating from a basketball standpoint, PR-wise, it seemed like they were quietly doing an okay job until this situation. You can remind me if I'm forgetting about something.
Well, I mean, you can't blame Cronin or Hankins for this, but, like, I mean, the whole selling and the whole ownership of the team has been a question mark now for a while, but that's always kind of looming over the whole thing.
Yeah, and I don't really know how like, I want Jody to sell. PR-wise, I know there was something about how I never really read into this at this point. At this point of the year, I honestly am kind of checked out for my own mental health and just to take a little bit of a break, not reading too much into this organization and stuff. I know there was something about how they kind of took a shot at Phil Knight. Do you have more details on that? Because honestly, I didn't really look into that.
They didn't really take a shot at Phil Knight. They were mad that Phil Knight took that hit piece out on Jody in the New York Post or whatever. And then I guess I don't know if any of this is true. There's some rumors that Paul Allen and Phil Knight did not like each other, and that's one of the reasons why Phil Knight seemingly never wanted to be involved with the Blazers, was that they didn't get along, and that Paul Allen said something in the past about he would never sell to Phil Knight, and now Jody has picked up that mantle, I guess. And so, yeah, there's some rumors that they will refuse to sell no matter what he offers to Phil Knight, and they would take someone else's offer over that. But I mean, they're also saying that they're not interested in selling still at all either.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, I don't really know how how they could navigate that whole mess in a PR positive way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I don't know. So,
well,
clean slate once Olshey's gone is how I'm looking at it.
This is the problem, right? And it's when you're talking about rich people with billion-dollar egos along with the money, this is what happens, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone, when they heard the news of Phil Knight, what happened? When you
begging for her to sell the
when you first heard it, right? You're like, oh my God, Phil Knight, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yes, he will be the savior of our franchise, right? He will come in and be the owner we need right now, right? When you're the current owner of the team, you don't want your the person who supplants you to be the one who like saves the franchise. And yes, thank God we have a great owner now. So I think there's a bit of like ego involved here too, where she doesn't want to, and this sucks because she's not thinking of the organization as a whole. But yeah, like she's like, oh man, I don't want to be known as the person who almost ruined the state of the franchise and all this stuff, and then like this new guy who took over for me like saved the franchise, and he's legendary because he did all these things, and they won a championship or whatever. So like I think when it comes to people like that, they can let their mindset get in the way of a good thing, and hopefully that's not the case.
The
But
thing is, if she sold to Phil Knight, that would be the most praise she would have gotten as owner. You know what I mean? Like that would be she would get the most. People would be saying, "Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Jody, for selling to Phil Knight." Right? So that would be the most positivity she could ever possibly get as owner. Because at this point, it's just, I don't know, man. I don't hate her as much as some other fans seem to hate her. Like, there's a lot of stuff that bothers me, but it's not to the point where it's like, I think she's a terrible owner or anything. It's just, fans got used to the way Paul Allen owned the team, and they want an owner that they feel like is invested like them. And when they don't have that, it rubs Blazer fans the wrong way. Now, if you're talking about some other sports cities, they probably don't care as much about that. If they have other teams, they might be big fans, but it's not like they're one team and their sacred team and their team that, they have to probably unnecessarily, but they have to worry about leaving and all that type of stuff. So it's different here in Portland than it is in other areas, and I feel like she probably gets a little bit more criticism than that. If she was the owner of the Philadelphia 76ers or something, then half of this stuff probably doesn't even get talked about, or at least she doesn't get a bunch of heat for. But in Portland, it's different. So I mean, there's some worse owners in the league than her. I'd rather have her than Sarver. Right? Like there's some worse owners. So I don't have a positive opinion on her though, for all the reasons that I stated, and then all this mess and whatnot. So the whole thing about Paul Allen potentially never wanting to sell to Phil Knight, I mean, if it came to a situation, if he was still alive, but like he had to sell the team for whatever reason, and it came down to, well, you have this owner that'll keep the team in Portland and will be invested and the fans want, and Paul Allen was an advocate for the Trailblazers staying in Portland. Mm-hmm. Supposedly that's part of the reason he bought the team. I don't know. I don't know the old stuff, but Paul Allen wanted the Blazers in Portland. At some point, does his personal grudge overweigh the things that he's wanted himself and that Phil Knight would want in potentially buying the team? I don't know. So even if he said that at times, I feel like if he was still alive and he had to sell, that he might have had a change of heart. So I hope that Jody doesn't take that completely seriously at the expense of the fans, because that's what matters the most for a professional sports organization, is its fans. And that seems to get lost in translation a bit too much, and that's why she gets criticized in the first place.
Yeah, I could see that.
So, anyway, I mean, anything else to add to ownership or this whole debacle or this whole conversation?
Like I've said in the past, I kind of agree with you that Jody hasn't really done anything wrong necessarily. It's just, at least in terms of ownership of the team, obviously personal life she has in the past. But yeah, so this was to me the kind of the teetering of the seesaw. So like I was in the camp of it could very logically be that she was only cheap because the team sucked the last couple of years. She only wanted to cut costs and avoid the tax because of that, and avoid the repeater tax and all that kind of stuff. But with them setting themselves up to duck the tax again this year, combined with then this news that they're possibly going to save like 500,000 or 600,000 by not sending their broadcast teams to games and cutting the pay of some of the people who work in the broadcast truck and stuff like that. If that kind of made it like, I was like, okay, could go either way. We'll have to wait and see. But now I'm firmly in the I think she's just being cheap, and it's unfortunate. So I mean, I'm not 100% into that. I'm not 100% sure on that. But every move pretty much since she's took over as owner has basically been leaning towards cheap versus doing whatever it takes to win, and that's just frustrating to me.
I don't fully agree with that because this offseason they probably overpaid a little bit for Anthony Simons and Yusuf Nurkic. Anthony Simons gets $25 million a year. Yusuf Nurkic gets $17.5 million a year, and then they maybe potentially overpay a little bit for Gary Payton II, and they give Dame his extension. Like, I can't blame them for trying to duck the tax this season because it's not like they underpaid necessarily for anything. If anything, they overpaid Nurkic, potentially overpaid Simon. I think Anthony Simons' contract was more market value. I think Nurkic's was a slight overpay. And then if anything, it was market value or a slight overpay for Gary Payton II. And they gave Dame his extension. Right? So I feel like this offseason, despite the whole thing that like, oh, they're going to try and duck the tax or everything, they shelled out money for guys.
Yeah, but I mean, in the NBA, as long as you're under the luxury tax, it doesn't really matter how much you shell out for teams, right?
Yeah.
Like, would it really been that much cheaper to offer Anthony 20 instead of 25? Like, it wouldn't have really mattered in the.
I mean, yeah, but if we're talking about her and this whole broadcast thing saving $1 million, right? Like, it's just weird to me. Like, you're willing to pay all the players, but then you're potentially trying to save pennies compared to that.
I think it's compartmental because, like, the team, so it's like, okay, salary for the team has to be within this, and then she gives Cronin the ability. And this is what I was going to say about, like, the Olshey McGowan thing. I don't know how it is with Cronin and Hankins since they're fairly new, but it seemed like Jody just let them do whatever they want. And if they had something where it added money to the team, they had to go talk to her about it, basically. And you have to clear all trades with the owner, of course. But, like, within reason, she was pretty much willing to do whatever as long as they stayed under the tax last year or whatever it cost to do things. So I feel like, especially with Olshey, I feel like he had full reign to just do whatever. And as long as he adhered to certain parameters. But I think it was split up. So, like, she'll tell Cronin, okay, this is your goal this season. Stay within the tax. Maybe if we're good, I'll consider staying over and going over it. And then with Hankins, she's like, this is your budget for this season. You have to stay within this. I don't think it mixes back and forth between the other two. I think it's fairly divided like that.
That makes sense, and that would go along with my best guess as to the whole broadcaster not traveling on the road because there's a budget and Hankins wanted to improve some things but had constraints. Mm-hmm. Like that. That would go along with it. So I could see that. It's just hard to say, obviously, because it's a lot of speculation and we'll do our best guess and our best to explain what we think the situation could be inside the organization, right? Because that's the thing, we don't know the conversations between Jody and Cronin. We can just give our best guess and try and think through it logically. But yeah, I don't disagree with feeling like she's cheap. I just feel like this offseason they spent quite a bit, so it wasn't like she went cheap this offseason in regards to like player spending, because they are slightly over the tax right now. Yeah. Or are they 400,000? They're like right at the tax.
Right around it, yeah. They still need to make a move to get under, but with 15 players, you could dump someone at the deadline, like a DD or something, I think, and get under.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pete Axborn has a good question. Is this a case of the new guy trying to save some bucks to look good? It's certainly a possibility. Yeah, I don't know how that whole dynamic works. That's certainly something that could have been likely. Like, he was like, "Hey, Jody, look at this idea." To save money. I hope that's not the case, but yeah.
I feel like he knew that it might not go over too well with the fans, so I feel like that probably isn't the case. Like, risk potentially a bunch of fan backlash to save her. I don't know. It just seems like there wasn't enough incentive to try and look good, especially if it's a situation where he just has a budget and has to stay within it. So I would lean towards that not being the case if I had to guess, but I mean, I can't rule that out.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway,
he is new. Like, he could just not really have the best formulated ideas yet. I mean, that's certainly possible.
Yeah. So if he wants fan feedback, he can email the channel blazersuprise@gmail.com. We'll keep it secret if he wants, and we'll let him know if fans would hate.
Rumors, and we'll see how you guys respond.
Yeah. You guys will be our test subjects, and we'll just like, I wonder if they could do a remote broadcast in a way where, we'll just toss out some random ideas as if they're our own or something. And you guys can be our test subjects. That'll never happen. This is all jokes, but he should definitely consider some sort of fan council or something. All right? And we try and be engaged with you guys and get a good feel for what the fan base thinks. That's why I do a video series around it. I want to know what you guys think. I ask you questions. I ask for your comments in chat. I ask for your comments on video and all that stuff for a reason. I like having a feel for the fan base. Now, it's tough because this is just one section of the fan base, and another section of the fan base that listens to a different platform probably has some different opinions. That's just how it goes.
I think we all want, like, the best experience possible and the best team possible, though. So I think we have a lot of common ground no matter what your stance is, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to wait to thank the dono when we changed subjects. I didn't expect to have a 40-minute conversation about this. Well done. We can talk in depth about anything we need to.
But one last thing I want to answer from chat. Chadco says, do you guys ever think an NBA team could be owned like the Green Bay Packers? I seriously doubt it because of how much money is involved. We see how the rich people in this country have, disassociated themselves from like normal people. I just don't think it would be plausible considering how much money is involved for rich people to own a professional team.
Yeah. How much are the Blazers valued at?
I want to say
$2.5 billion?
2.4 or something, I think, last time, but that includes the arena too, I think.
Yeah, let's do 2.5 billion. How many subs do we have? 7,220-ish. If every sub, Eric, gave us $346,260, we could buy the Blazers as a community.
Nice.
So that's out there. I'll start a GoFundMe.
So we need 700,000 people versus 7,000?
Yeah. See, if we had 700,000 people, then it would be 3,000, a little over 3,000 per person. Right? Guys, you on board with that? DJ Vega says hell no. He wants the Blazers to be sold to, I don't know, some random billionaire that'll move them to Kansas City. That's on you, DJ Vega. It's only $346,000.
Yeah. When you said 347 or something, I was going to say, that's not too bad. And then you said 1,000. I was like, oops.
Yeah. See, I was wondering what was happened. Make sure that's a lot of zeros. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 zeros and a 2 and a 5, right? That's billions. Yes, that's billions. Yep. Perfect. Anyway, if we, maybe 10 years from now when we have maybe 100,000 subs, maybe we can buy the team. We'll see. But yeah, it's not going to be a Green Bay Packers situation, unfortunately. Shout out to Aeromancer with a $10 donation. It's not 300 some thousand, but $10. We'll take it because he says this is the initial deposit in the Get Eric a Quieter AC Unit Fund. Please consider donating so our guy can stream in a cool room. Thank you, Aeromancer, for the $10 dono for the Get Eric a Quieter AC Unit Fund. I'm also kind of upset because I also don't have AC here, but, Eric's AC unit is loud.
They make fun of my mic because it looks like a space heater, and I said I would never have a space heater on with how hot it is in this room right
Just
now.
right in your face, yeah.
But I do have an AC unit, but it's, like Tori said, it's kind of loud, so I'd have to turn it off for the stream, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, we're in the same boat, so There's some solidarity here.
Yes, absolutely.
From the hosts.
Yeah,
we're both burning up.
We sweat for you guys.
Yeah, how is it? Are you feeling hot right now? It doesn't feel too hot right now.
Yeah, I'm a little hot, but not too bad. Not as bad as last Thursday. I'm
wearing a black long sleeve and black sweatpants. And I'm actually feeling okay. So I think I'm just used to it being 80 degrees here. I'm excited for like October when it's finally room temperature again. And then, then I'll be chilling, literally. Shout out Chris S. $5 dono says, learning to play ball because I grew up abroad and never got taught. Made my first 3 in the gym yesterday and I'm way too proud considering how old I am. Shout out Chris S. $5 dono. Everybody has to start somewhere, Chris.
How old is he? How old are you, Chris?
I think Chris is like 30.
I'm your age.
So he's 55.
I'm guessing he's saying me, not you, Tori. So 43. I'm 43. So yeah, first 3. So like you've never even gone like shot around at a park or something like prior to this. But congratulations, man. That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that sucks, man, if you've never played pickup ball before this, but nice that you're getting out there now, man. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling.
Imagine, like, going through your whole life without playing ball and then, like, picking it up in your 40s and, like this would be a rags to riches story if you, like, actually became good at basketball and, like, in your 40s. Like, I wonder if anyone's ever done that before. Like, never played before until you're in your 40s and then, like, become like a ringer, you know?
Yeah, exactly. See, that's the thing, man. Enjoy it. Like, this is all, playing basketball and being new to you, I'm kind of jealous in a way. Because if I go and play a my rec league, at least my Tuesday, Thursday league, which is a little bit worse than my Sunday league, like, I need to go out there and I need to dominate and be the best player on the court or else I'm not satisfied. So it's frustrating because there's some solid players in that league too, man. And there's a lot of times where it's like I'm not the best player on the court. And that's frustrating to me, right? So if I could just be new and get excited making a 3, that would be fun, man. So definitely take enjoyment in learning the game and in playing the game for the first time. That's the thing. Whenever you get good at something, it just raises your expectations. Like, in regards to the channel, 100 views used to get me more excited than 2,000 views does now. You know what I mean? That's the thing with YouTube, too, and that's why I tell people that want to do YouTube, you can't do it for the views or the subs. You have to do it because you love it, because 700 subs will feel great, but then if you don't make progress and you're still making content for a year, it'll feel terrible. If you're getting 1,000 views every video, 2,000 views will be great, but if you're getting 5,000 views a video, then 2,000 views feels terrible. Like, it's all perspective and reference, and you get used to being at a certain level when you do something for a while. So, it's the same way with gaming even, man. Like, I play a game a whole lot and I'm not good at it. It's like, what am I doing? I need, I'm trash then in that regard is how I tend to look at it, which isn't a good way to look at it. But, that's a long-winded way to say enjoy being new to the game.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Zach, I feel your pain there. I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
But no. So Chris says, that we've helped teach him the game, and he wants to start playing himself, and that hopefully someday he could play pickup with us. And let me just say for the record, if we eventually have a pickup game, which I still hope we do, like, don't worry if you're not good, or like even if you're beginner level at basketball. My guys, Connor and Smog, they bless their little hearts. They came and hooped with me a couple weeks ago, and they haven't played organized basketball or done any of that kind of stuff. So the whole like playing the pickup game 3-on-3 was fairly new to them. And yeah, but it was just fun to be out there. Like we're not gonna like ever like think any less of any of you if you come play when you're out there actually trying to learn basketball and have fun and share that experience with us. So if there's ever a pickup game or you have a chance to come play, don't feel bad because you've never played before. I just think that would be awesome that at your age you're trying to learn how to play.
Yeah, I don't know what Eric's talking about because I'll dunk on all of you. No, I'm just kidding. Just playing. It would be fun to do a stream where we gave shot advice to people. If people wanted to do it. Like, people send in footage of their jump shot if they're willing to, like, be on stream. And we give jump shot advice. Chat, do you guys think that's a good stream? That could be fun. Obviously, we don't have a ton to talk about. Obviously, I'm only going to do it if chat wants to do it. But that could be fun. That could be fun just as a one-off stream. And I could give you guys some shooting advice. It could be something a little different. Not in the middle of the season. Like, I'm talking about in the next 2 weeks, probably. I mean, we literally did 2 streams in a row where the topic is, will broadcasters travel with the team? So, you know, there's a couple other ideas. I have a lot of stream ideas filled. We need to do a CBA, like things we want to see in the next CBA, and try and come up with some ideas and maybe some rules we think should be implemented, and we'll get nerdy with that. And then I want to do like a first look in September for the 2023 draft class. Like, there's some other random stuff that I've planned, but there's still a couple streams where I have no idea what we're going to do for it. So if you guys are cool with that, that could be fun to do. That could be fun to do. And I'll definitely try and get Connor and Smog to send in their jump shots. All right. I've seen their jump shots. I need to help them. Did you work with their jump shots at all when you met up with them, Eric?
Not really. I mean, we were just playing like 3-on-3 and stuff. So yeah, it was more just like telling them when to cut and things like that, you know.
Yeah, it would all be positive feedback if you guys wanted to do that. It'd all be fun, you know. I am not as good of a shooter as I should be because I tried to copy Steph Curry's form out of high school, and that messed me up when my form was worse before then, and I shot better. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's not even necessarily about... Here's the thing about shooting. It's not even necessarily about having good form. It's about having the same shot every time. Okay? Now, having good form makes it easier to have the same shot every time, but it's not necessarily something that you have to do in order to have the same shot every time. Right? Like, Reggie Miller is one of the best shooters ever. His form was not textbook at all. Steph Curry is the best shooter ever. He has his hand on the side of the ball at a set point. Like, I've studied that dude's shot. He even thumbs the ball with his left hand, which is something you're told not to do. So, he's the best shooter ever. And his base isn't consistent. Like, you know, there's no one way to shoot the basketball. But there are definitely things to do. Anyway, you want to segue into your Chris Haynes, whatever Chris Haynes said that you wanted to talk about.
Sure, yeah. It seems kind of out of place now, but so
hey, did you see his sidestep on Nelly? He did a celebrity Big 3 game. All right, see, this is the perfect segue. He hit a Dame sidestep to the right.
Nice.
His form looked good, man. It was impressive. Like, I was surprised. Like, textbook pretty textbook form, sidestep, the Dame sidestep to the right. I bet Dame taught him that move. Yeah, it looked good. So anyway, perfect segue to whatever you wanted to say about Chris Haynes.
Yeah, so he was also on the same Rip City Radio with Chad and Dwight. This was actually last week, I think, the end of last week. And he didn't really say a lot, but there was a point in the interview where they were asking him about the Blazers' moves and if Dame's still happy. And he made it very, 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 very clear that he was speaking as himself and not Dame, but that he still thinks they need to make a move for another core piece and that they need to use some of their best young assets to do so. And he then reiterated that that's just his belief, not something Dame has said that he needs or wants or whatever. And he also said that he made some mention about how the young player had to be like actually good, like not projecting to be good or anything like that, like in order to get that core piece.
Yeah.
So after the interview, Chad and Dwight spent the next segment talking about what he could have been talking about, and their only conclusion was that he is saying that they have to trade Anthony Simons for a front court player.
I mean, that's not a bad assumption, but given what you heard from Dame in regard to Anthony Simons, I know Dame doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
That guy, the thing is, that's the thing with Shaedon Sharpe, is how quickly can Shaedon Sharpe be that type of trade piece? He probably has more value now than he will at the trade deadline. Because I don't expect him to play a whole lot, and that's the thing. Anytime you have a rookie, even if it's like a long-term, high-upside guy, anytime you have a rookie and then they're not playing the rookie year, their trade value is going to go down a little bit. Because you're going to have some other rookies that look impressive when they're playing, and that's the thing. It's like you look at Anthony Simons, he would have a lot of trade value right now. His middle of his rookie year, he has none. You know what I mean? He's not playing, 24th pick. Like, he doesn't have a ton of trade value in the middle of his rookie season like he does now. So, in regards to Shaedon Sharpe, is when does he become that type of trade piece if they're looking to make that type of move? Because if it's not Anthony Simons, I guess it could be Nasir Little if he breaks out a bit. But if Nasir Little breaks out a bit, he also solves a lot of issues. So they might feel like they don't need that piece if Nasir Little can take that step that we all hope he can take. So otherwise, it's what? Shaedon Sharpe and Keon Johnson? Problem is Keon Johnson's not going to play. Like, I don't really know how that would manifest itself.
He made it very clear he was talking about not someone that could break out, someone who has already broken out but is still young. And that, like...
Chris Haynes did?
Yeah, like, he made it seem
the only guy that is Anthony Simons.
Yeah. But, here's the thing. Well, first of all, it drives me crazy because... Then the question would be like, oh, would you trade Anthony? Because they asked like Kyle that too, and so that they had like a discussion on would you trade Anthony for a better front court player or whatever. And Dwight's like, it would have to be a really good player and all that, which I agree. But like they never mentioned a name, like not a single name came up in this conversation. It was just like, would you do this? It's like, sure, if you can find an Anthony level player at a different position, maybe you consider it, but just throwing out this hypothetical, would you trade Anthony for a forward? Well, no. Like if it's Tobias Harris, hell no. Like, you know what I mean? Like if it's like Zion or something, then maybe you roll the dice, like I don't know who that would be, but like
see, that's the thing is when they start tossing out names, it's still like, Tobias Harris or even a Zion, man. Let's just have this conversation for a second. Even a Zion, injury question marks, and he's not looked at as a good defensive player. Here's the thing. I don't think there's going to be any worry about the Blazers being good enough on the offensive end. Them getting to that level all depends on them getting to that level on the defensive end, right? And it remains to be seen this roster how good it is defensively. But you're not going to get to the next level, in my opinion, trading Simons for Zion Williamson. Offensively, it's probably similar. You maybe have even less spacing for Dame, though. And then defensively, you're playing Grant at the 3 and Zion at the 4 and Nurkic at the 5 and Dame? That's not going to be I I don't have any more confidence in that team defensively than I have in this one. Maybe even less confidence because, I mean, I think you need a forward that's able to be an on-ball defender so that you can put Grant more off the ball. If you have Zion, then Grant has to play more on the ball. He's a worse defender next to Zion than he is next to Ant and potentially a Nasir Little or Josh Hart or Gary Payton II. So, I know people don't want to... I would trade... Oh, would you trade Anthony for Siakam?
Nah, I'm not trading it right now. I mean, I know we can't, but yeah.
I mean, I want to see what Ant does next to Dame.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see how good this team can be defensively. And if it's not good enough and we're a middling team at the deadline, then you'd probably do it. Right? But that's the thing, is there should be no rush to do it right now.
Yeah.
I mean...
Also, when it comes to Sharp, I think if the goal was to draft him and then hopefully increase his trade value, I think our only chance for that this season was if he really showed out in Summer League, and unfortunately with the injury, I think that kind of ruined any chance of him having much trade value this year. So until he actually gets minutes and looks like a legit star or whatever, I mean, that could never happen, but like that's the only scenario I think we're from moving forward. Until that happens, I don't think he's going to have a ton of trade value to where you're getting like an all-star level player for him if you make a trade.
Yeah.
And that was what's so unfortunate about Summer League, is if we wanted these kind of possibilities, we really needed him to either show out so that we could trade someone like Simons and be fine if Sharp was ready to take that mantle, or we could increase his trade value. So yeah, I think it's going to be really hard now.
Yeah. I don't know. I would wait and see on Simons and see how good this team can be defensively, and then at the deadline, if it's not good enough, then you explore other avenues. Simple.
To be fair, I mean, we can't trade.
You can't trade
Simons
right
until January 15th.
Yeah.
So like,
saying,
it's
even
it's
if you could, even if you could, there's no point to. I mean, there's no trade available, and there's no point to not see what this team can do. I don't think that there's no chance that they're top 10. I think there's a small chance that they could be a borderline top 10 defense. In that case, do you need an offensive star? Like, do you need another core piece? That's the thing, is everybody looks at... Here's the thing. Or do you want to... Or whatever you're going to say, and then I want to make my point.
Just real quick. So, I think Chris Haynes was coming from the point of view of, like, Dame still needs more star power around him. So, like, it wasn't... Well, and I think they misinterpreted, but, like, yeah... Go ahead.
That's what I was going to touch upon, though, is from the outside looking in, when you see, the Blazers aren't good enough, anybody who doesn't pay a ton of attention to the Blazers just say, they need another core piece.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
They need another star. They need, you know what I mean? But if you pay attention to the Blazers, here's the thing, is you have to be a good team on both sides of the floor, or an elite team on one side of the floor and a solid team on the other. Dude, yeah, I know. My hair's crazy. I don't know what happened. My gel's failing me. I see chat. I know. I don't have a hat around me. You guys are just going to have to make do for 10 minutes. I know Taylor Packer's loving it, but yeah, it's driving me crazy. Anyway, screw the hair. If you pay attention to the Blazers, you know that offensively they have what they need. And maybe that's a problem this year without CJ McCollum, but
I don't think
you have what you need. Yeah, you probably have what you need offensively. So it's how do they get good enough defensively? If the argument is they can't start Dame and Ant together, if that's a big issue, then sure, that's a more valid argument than that they just need another piece. It's they need to get good enough defensively. That's always been the conversation. They've been good enough offensively. They just need to get good enough defensively. The thing is good defensive players aren't looked at as stars unless they're really good offensively as well. So I don't even look at it as the Blazers necessarily need another star, right? They need the right defensive pieces. The thing is, if Anthony Simons isn't good enough defensively to get done, then you have to replace his offensive production as well if you trade him. But it's not as simple as they need another core piece, because that's what everybody always says, but it's a much more nuanced conversation than that.
Right.
It's all about the defense.
Completely agree.
Tribe says my hair is not as good as Cooper Kupp's. I agree.
I just find it funny that, like Dame's birthday, right? He's hanging out with Ant.
Yeah.
And then he gets a call
It's Dame's guy.
from what was it? The Trendon, the championship when they won the championship. Hey, we won, Ant. Like, they're wasted. But it's like, I don't know. You see all those training that they go away for a weekend and train and stuff, and Ant's always with Dame, and then you hear all this stuff about how much Dame respects Ant and thinks of his game and thinks he's much more closer to him than CJ ever was, and all this stuff, and then I hear stuff like, oh yeah, we got to trade Ant for a better forward or whatever. It's just like, I don't think that's what Dame wants. But then it's from Chris Haynes, like, I mean, I know he didn't say Ant's name specifically, but he kind of, like I said, more or less suggested that. So, like, it's just my, I don't know. Either that's wrong and Dame's not really in love with Ant, or it's all this talk is foolish and it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird back and forth there.
See, that's the thing, is I always take talk with a grain of salt, unless it's straight from a player's mouth.
Right.
Part of that was that whole stream where you're talking about like what Dame said about Ant and Nasir Little, and I was like, okay, cool, if that's the case, awesome. I just want to see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And sure, it would have been more fun if I just sat there and got hyped up like, yes, Ant, is going to be the next Dame. Like, I would love to believe that, trust me. But any talk, especially when it's not directly from a player's mouth, man, it's I take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
And that's the thing in regards to players getting hyped up. I was around Mike Barrett, and it was always 15 pounds of muscle, and Martell Webster looks amazing, right? But, we got... Ever since that whole thing when I was younger, you gotta see it. And in regards to Chris Haynes speaking and saying, I'm talking on my own terms, like, I'm not going to tie that to Dame and believe that Dame feels that way, or even, like, I'm just gonna assume that that's Chris Haynes saying his own opinion, and Dame feels differently.
Yeah. Well, so hasn't Dame said it, though? Like, was it last offseason, when he was wishy-washy about, people thought he might ask out?
Yeah.
Wasn't it a Chris Haynes article, if I'm not mistaken, where he quoted Dame as saying, like, he believes in Ant and, like, he would be mad if Ant was ever traded or something, paraphrasing, but I believe it was something along those lines. So Dame has said that. I remember an article, and I'm pretty sure it was Chris Haynes.
And then Dame's talked about building like the Phoenix Suns have. So, and that's straight from his mouth. He's referenced how he wants to kind of build like the Phoenix Suns have, where they get to contender status and are able to contend when he's older, hopefully contend soon, but also contend when he's 35, 36, because you have some young guys coming up that can take a brunt of the responsibility. So, I mean, Anthony Simons is the perfect guy for that, because he's really talented, could be a 22, 23 point per game scorer next year, and he's also really young. Like, Anthony Simons fits both those molds. And I think that's what the Blazers are doing, where they're trying to get good enough right now to potentially be a dark horse contender. I don't think there's anything out there that would take them past that anyway, but they're trying to get good enough now. That's why they went after Gary Payton II defensively. He was the best defender on the market. They're hoping Nasir Little can improve. And they brought in Chauncey Billups to try and foster some more defensive improvement than Terry Stotts ever was going to. They're trying to do that because, as I said, it all comes down to the defensive end right now, while also maintaining a timeline for the future with Anthony Simons, Nasir Little, Shaden Sharp, Keon Johnson potentially, Jabari Walker, Trendon Watford. Like, you got some young guys with some upside, some room for growth that have already shown some things that you can get excited about. So it's kind of, people always talk, you gotta get players to fit Dame's timeline and all this stuff. At some point, it might be a decision where you have to sacrifice some youth if there's a move out there that could take you to contender status. But I've always said, I'm not sacrificing youth if it doesn't get us, like, for sure to the next level. And I don't think anything out there has really done that. It's like, some of the trade packages, like OG Anunoby was rumored, but Toronto was asking for way too much, and I don't think it improved us that much, and it kind of went all in on a team that probably wasn't a contender. So you're looking at two different timelines. I don't think that they have to contradict each other. I think they can complement each other.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm the most excited about currently is just that mix you talked about. And I do like that because when you have a lot of young guys that are expected to play too, I feel like if those guys pop, you have a much higher ceiling and you could have that sneaky upside that I don't know if you want to label it the way you did, a dark horse contender or not, like that far, but it could get close to that if everything breaks right. But
how good do they need to be defensively, just in terms of ranking, to be a dark horse contender? Do you think is it average? Is it borderline top 10?
I mean, I don't know if they're contenders if they're 15th or whatever, but that certainly puts them in the probably non-play-in picture if they're 15th or so in defense. If they're
that gets them close to dark horse range, right?
If they're top 10, I mean, most teams that are top 10, because you would assume that offensively they'd be close to top 10 as well. So if they're hovering around like 10 in both, that in past years has meant most teams that are top 10 in both offense and defensive efficiency are contenders or close to being contenders.
So I'd say 10 to 15 gets you in dark horse range. Somewhere in there, if your defense can be slightly above average, you're in dark horse contender range if you're the Portland Trailblazers because of how good the offense is. I don't think being slightly above average is completely out of the picture. I think it's possible. I don't know if it's likely, right? Like, we've seen such terrible defense and, you still have some question marks in that regard. But I think it's possible. So that's where, you have the possibility of potentially being a dark horse contender if the defense is in that range.
Mm-hmm. That'd be awesome. Be a fun ride this year if that happens.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. There's something... Oh, Zach says, Anthony for Aaron Gordon, maybe. That's the perfect thing that illustrate my whole point in regards to the team building and the two different paths thing, is a lot of people 2 years ago wanted to trade Anthony Simons for Aaron Gordon. Mm-hmm. We are a better team right now because we didn't trade Anthony Simons for Aaron Gordon. But at the time, it's like, we need to get that forward so that we're good enough to help Dame. But Aaron Gordon wouldn't have made us contenders. We wouldn't have a championship if we did that trade. And right now, we'd be screwed. We'd be absolutely screwed if we did that. So... that's the thing is you can't be too short-sighted with like, oh, right now we need this type of guy, so we'll sell this youth that could easily be better than them in a year or two, but we just need this specific role player. Right. Because you still need talent at the end of the day. Yes, that makes us slightly better defensively, but all of a sudden the offense becomes a question mark because that's a big downgrade. That would be a big downgrade right now. I would not have confidence in us being a top 10 offense if we had Aaron Gordon to stay Anthony Simons. The reason I have confidence in us being a really good offensive team is because we have Anthony Simons.
Yeah, for sure.
So thank goodness we didn't do that trade that everybody wanted a couple years ago. We were the most vocal against that. People said we were crazy for not wanting to do that trade because Aaron Gordon would solve all our problems. Thank goodness we didn't do that, man.
And people were saying they got a better prospect than we would have given them with Ant in RJ Hampton.
It's funny how narratives change, man. Yeah. It's funny how things change. Anyway, anything else for the stream? I said shorter stream. We right. Talked for over an hour, man. I need to stop saying shorter stream because I don't think it's possible for us.
Zach asked if you want to say anything about the Taylor Rooks superstar thing yesterday. Are you sick of that argument?
Yeah, that's a terrible argument. B, anybody saying sexist or misogynistic stuff about her because she had a terrible argument are ridiculous, and there's no place for them in this community. I blocked a couple people on Twitter that followed me because they had sexist things to say because of who said it, right? Guess what? Who's the most, popular analyst on TV? Skip Bayless? He has the worst takes out of anyone, all right? He's a male. It doesn't have anything to do with gender. So that bothered me more. I didn't like her take, but everybody's going to have an opinion, right? And all the Dame stuff I don't really worry about. The thing that annoyed me was people commenting on her gender because of her basketball argument. Like,
Exactly.
talk about her basketball argument and say why her basketball argument's wrong. It's not that hard.
Yep. Treat her like any other analyst who would have said it. And that's the thing. Skip said it too later on. People weren't commenting, oh, Skip has horrible takes. All men can't talk about basketball, right? So why would you do it when a woman makes a bad take? Like, no, it was just her opinion, and it was wrong, but that doesn't mean that no woman should ever commentate about basketball again after that. That's so dumb.
Yeah. And the thing that bothers me is it really made me think, man, like, we've gotten a lot of heat for our terrible takes that people think are terrible, right? But we've never had somebody say never had somebody say it was because we were men or males. If we were females, we would hear that it was because we were females. That's why our takes are so bad. We would have heard that a lot because we've had a lot of people comment on how bad our takes are. Yeah. And that like bothered me, right? It should be about basketball arguments, basketball debates, that sort of thing. So I was disappointed to see some people that I think watch us, a couple people that watch us that followed me on Twitter, say some stuff like that. And I blocked them because I don't mess with that. The thing is, probably 2 months from now, it'll be, oh, Tori's so sensitive, he blocked me for no reason, da-da-da-da-da.
Yep.
So...
I had someone randomly just tag me and say F you, and like I didn't see it because I had blocked him. And then it was like someone asked like what did he do or something. He's like, I don't know, I just like talk crap about him every once in a while because he blocked me because he said I was like threatening his family or something. And like like, why would I make that up? That someone was like threatening my family? Like, that's stupid. Like, I hardly block anyone. So, like, obviously, you did do something. So dumb.
Yeah, I block more people than you, man. But
a lot more.
Here's the thing, though. Guess what? There's a bunch of people tweeted at me. I'm not gonna remember everyone I block or exactly why I blocked them. I'm just gonna trust. Yeah, I probably had a good reason for that. Mm-hmm. All right, so it's funny how people, he blocked me for no reason, blah, blah. Man, I literally, like, I don't care if you disagree with me. If you insult me because you disagree with me, I'm going to block you. I don't go on Twitter to be insulted, all right? I don't go on Twitter to potentially detract from my own mental health, okay? I go on Twitter for my enjoyment of talking about basketball with Blazer fans, whether or not people disagree or they agree. Obviously, it helps the channel a little bit to get a platform on Twitter as well, but I don't go on Twitter to be insulted. And if that makes me soft, so be it, man. It's just, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't talk about Twitter on stream like I used to or that sort of thing, but yeah, like Taylor Packer has a great point, okay? Taylor Packer's a regular on Rip City Reddit. He says, I remember this dude on Reddit complaining Tori blocked him, and then he proceeded to write one of the most disrespectful comments ever about him. It's funny, I'll see people say, he blocked me, he's soft, he blocked me for no reason, and then they throw like 10 insults in a row about me in their post about how I blocked them for no reason. Like, way to make it completely obvious why I did block you. Kind of defeated your own post there. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, guy just randomly saying hoop shock F you. Like, that's, yes, thank you for telling me why I blocked you for a legit reason. Yeah, like you would months later just randomly tweet that out.
Yeah, and I know that's going to be the case on the internet and on Twitter and Reddit. But
for sure.
You know, I used to rant about a lot more on stream. At this point, it is what it is, and it comes with the territory of what we do. But it's just funny. It's just a lack of self-awareness. So. Anyway, that's my Twitter rant for the month, I guess.
What's up, Demir? How you doing?
What's up, Demir? Anyway, Jonathan, you asked anything on KD talks. We can talk about it more if there's more news on it. I don't want to stream too much longer. I'm hungry. As I said, I haven't eaten all day, and I made Eric go deaf before the stream by opening a bag of Cheez-Its. Okay, so I do want to eat at some point today, but we have streams in the future where we'll have nothing to talk about. So I want to save the KD stuff maybe for this Thursday, because there was some news today that we can talk about on Thursday. I don't expect anything to happen before Thursday. If it does, then we will talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. And just real quick about the superstar thing, like, I mean, the whole reasoning was dumb. And if Kyrie's the superstar, Dame is, and just because he hasn't won a championship because he didn't get to be on a team with LeBron and Kevin Love in their primes, like, that doesn't mean that he's lesser of a player or not a star or whatever. Like, he's actually done a lot more than less, in my opinion.
Yeah. Anyway, Dro, I don't mess with you. Anyway. That's annoying, dude. You know exactly why I blocked you and why I don't mess with you, man. All right? As I said, I go on Twitter to not have my mental health messed with, all right? So stop with your crap. Anyway, anything else you want to add for the stream?
Well, thank everyone for watching and for participating in chat and all that, and I hope everyone has a good night.
Yep, we'll catch you again on Thursday. If you guys want to do a stream where I give feedback on your jump shots, I will give you a place to send in your clips, and I'll tweet it out, okay? I want to do that for a stream. Maybe it's just part of a stream. Maybe it's a 15-minute segment, but I thought that could be fun. So definitely follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is down below. You can also vote on the thumbnail polls that I've been doing. I've been doing a thumbnail bracket. You guys can vote for the best thumbnail that I came up with this past offseason on my Twitter page. And then, of course, follow Eric as well. His Twitter handle is also right there. @HoopsJock. Anyway, final words, Eric. Unless you just said them and you just want me to sign off.
No, so run my fade. I can't see for some reason I can't click on anyone's like Twitter thing and go to their channel, so I can't see your picture, so I have no idea. If you just ask me like, do you know who this is or whatever, I can't see the picture big enough to even tell who you are. So met me recently. You must have been working out in North Plains then, right?
Yeah. Max Lakers fan says Chet needs to eat more Cheez-Its. Man, get out. Oh, final words on that, by the way. He stopped LeBron on fast break and rolled his ankle. I don't know why the dude was getting hate for that, saying, see, I told you.
So, yeah, I was at one of my favorite, I mean, there's only a few options here in North Plains, but yeah, was getting some food and had my guy here run my fade, say, when's the next stream? And I was like, what? Yeah, so it was pretty cool. What's up, man? I think your name was Christian, right? It's good to meet you.
It's always cool to meet people in person, all right? So if you see me, come say what's up. But I'm up in Vancouver, all right? So a lot of you are probably down in Portland. I know a few of you are up here in Vancouver. But yeah, definitely say what's up. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. I actually had a dude on my Sunday rec league team that we showed up for a rec game, and he had watched me before. I hadn't met him before, but he was on my rec team, which was kind of random. Was cool, though. So anyway, final statements. I want to make sure you say everything you want to say. So final words.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
I'll catch y'all Thursday. No videos this week. We'll have a mailbag. Actually, that was the final thing I wanted to ask you. You want to do mailbag next Monday?
Sure.
All right. Time for Eric to do a mailbag, and I'll help you out with that and whatnot. No videos until that mailbag on Monday. I will post something in the community prompt later this week for questions on that. Anyway, I think I plugged everything, so it's time to sign off. Bonnie says she drove through Vancouver and waved. Yeah, I'm sure, Bonnie. Hope you guys have a good rest of your nights. Until next time, as always, peace out and go Blazers.